Vikings and the stories of their conquests have fascinated historians and the general public for nearly 1,000 years. The Danelaw and the stories of Viking mercenaries serving the Byzantine Empire are well-known parts of the Viking Age. What people do not talk about often are the Viking settlements that didn't survive. This is a two-part series where we will discuss the lost Viking settlements in North America, specifically in Vinland and Greenland. Today we will discuss the lost Viking settlements in Greenland. Throughout the Viking Age, Vikings established colonies in northern landmasses such as Iceland and Greenland. An often asked question that many people have is how the Icelandic settlements survived, but the Greenlandic ones died off. For 500 years, Scandinavians inhabited Greenland in three distinct subregions named, because historians are great at naming things, the Eastern, Middle, and Western settlements. Now, these regions were not one big town. Instead, they were collections of very small settlements. These settlements were mostly farms made in the fjords of the coastline. Fjords allowed for some shelter and a milder climate. Apart from farming, pastoral herding and fishing industries were very prevalent. The eastern settlement had a population of 4,000 people, located in many different towns and fjords on the southwest of the island. As said before, the people were mostly farmers, herders, or fishermen, and there is evidence of some trading between Inuit people and the Norse. There's also been some evidence of fighting between the two people groups, which may have contributed to the destruction of the colony. The middle settlement was a collection of 20 farms and is the smallest of all three settlements, also being the last to be created, and then the first to be abandoned. There isn't much to say about this because not much archaeological evidence has been found, but it was the very smallest. Today, the abandoned mining village of Ivitut, I'm sorry, I just mispronounced that awfully, lays on the ruins of the small Norse settlement. The final settlement we will talk about is the Western settlement. The Western settlement had a population of about 1,000 inhabitants and around 95 farms. It had a smaller growing season than the eastern one because it was so much higher north in latitude and therefore had a much smaller population. They had more contact with the Inuit peoples, but because they had a smaller population, they just did not have too much to trade. Sadly, by the year 1500, all settlements were abandoned. While there were many factors and theories on why, the most prominent of which include conflict with the Inuit, the movement of the plague to Greenland, and the most widely accepted theory being the changing of the climate. This moment in time was called the Little Ice Age because temperatures dropped considerably all across the world for about 200 years. Because of this, harvests in Greenland and around the world began to diminish and fail, and because of this, many were forced to either starve or leave the island. The final account from the Greenlandic Norse comes from a church record of a wedding being formalized. What happened after that is lost to history. Today, the only remnants of these past settlements are the ruins of farms and churches that are scattered throughout the fjords of Greenland. I hope you enjoyed this really quick video that's going to be in a two-part series of mine about lost Nordic settlements. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe, and have a wonderful day. And in 2 weeks, be prepared for part 2. Episode of this mini-series on Viking colonization, we discussed the Viking colonization of Greenland. Today, we will discuss the other half of the Viking colonization in the New World, their colony in Vinland. Before we continue farther, it should be noted that the colony of Vinland wasn't much of a colony, more like a small supply outpost. The three islands of Vinland, Helgeland, and Markland, are today found in present-day Newfoundland, specifically the Gulf of St. Lawrence geographic area. Vinland was discovered in the year 1000 by the Norse explorer Leif Erikson. Erikson, the son of Eric the Red, the man who created the Greenland settlements, as we discussed last episode, became the first European to ever step foot on the soil of the continental Americas. He would go on to found the colony of Vinland, named this way because of the abundance of wild grapes that he and his crew found when wading ashore. They grew on vines, hence the Vinland for vineyards. The Vikings founded a settlement in the Lansau Meadows in Newfoundland, and it appears to have lasted for about 10 years. But historical documentation is very sparse, And what we do know comes from small archaeological finds and what we already know about Viking civilization. It appears the settlement was a gateway or way station for explorers to venture farther into North America. They could rest and repair their vessel or use it as a base to venture into the Canadian wilderness. The population of the settlement was not large, however, having an estimated population of between 90 and 100 from what archaeologists have been able to find at the site. See, Vinland was noted for having excellent conditions for life. The Vikings found plentiful food sources such as grapes, nuts, fish, and deer. This prosperity meant that Viking traders would bring these goods back to Greenland and then further into the European world. Before the discovery of Vinland, wood for Greenland was imported from Norway, but after its discovery, the vast forests of Canada provided more than enough. Even after the abandonment of the colony, which I find really interesting, it appears that Vikings kept sailing to the New World for wood. An account from 1347 from Norse Iceland records an interaction with a crew returning from Vinland with loads of wood for the colony. It should also be noted that at this point, this is the last contact that it appears the Vikings had with North America because no more trips are documented ever returning to Vinland. Well, this begs the question, if Vinland was so prosperous, why did the Norse leave? Sadly, much like the other previous aspects that we've mentioned in the video, there's not a lot of evidence. Historians have been able to come up with the conclusion that it was most likely due to logistical intensive struggles that it just became too much of a hassle to upkeep the colony. There's also the possibility that the Norse came into conflict with the natives living at the time. There have been Norse runes that have been found in Native American villages, which confirms that trade and interaction did occur, and the Norse have documented fighting them, so a mixture of all these factors are most likely what caused the settlement to be abandoned, and today why Norse, I guess, folklore isn't as prevalent in American society. So I know this was a very quick video, but I just wanted to separate the story of the Vikings in North America into two separate videos for right now. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it was pretty quick, but just wanted to get to the point and give you guys some quick information. If you enjoy the video and want to show your support for the channel, hit that like button and subscribe if you already haven't. And if you haven't watched the other episode about the Vikings, there will be a link to the video popping up on your screen at some point. If you want to watch more lesser known history, please feel free to take a look at some other content that I have out there on my channel. And with that, I hope everybody listening to this has a wonderful day. And again, thank you for supporting lesser known history.